Hey, it's Mark Leonard with your video thought for the day, day 4 of the Shema, a passage in Deuteronomy 6. I hope you've gotten to listen to days 1 through 3. If you haven't, they're on YouTube and a number of other places where you can find them. Hey, I've been listening through my headphones today because it's been a pretty important day. It's a day where I'm not only working, I got up early this morning, started working, but am continuing to work on preparing for some stuff I've got to present soon. And this stuff is so important that I have pulled out some of the most important music I could ever use to listen to it. You see, this music consists of a playlist of a number of different songs that, frankly, are some of the best songs ever written and recorded in the history of music. Now, if you grew up in the Lanier house, and by that I mean the house of which I am the father figure, not the one I grew up in. If you grew up in my house, you had to learn certain things about music. It's just the truth. You have to learn, for example, that What's Going On by Marvin Gaye is one of the 10 best albums of all time. You have to learn that Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run, was the peak album for him in his career. There are just certain aspects of music you need to learn. And I tell you that because we all find things of value to teach to our children. And those aren't things that are just important for the children to know, but they're things of value. They're of value to us. And when we recognize their value, and they mean a lot to us, we want to pass them along to the next generation. You know, there are lots of things that I hope my kids get from me. And then there are some things that I hope my kids don't get from me. You know, you want them to get the good and you want them to improve on your bad. And that's just the way of it. And so as we look to ourselves and we think about those things that we value that are good, that we want our kids to do and become, we ought to be focusing in a very special light, which brings me to the Shema as I want to talk about it today. So the Shema begins in verse 4 of chapter 6 in Deuteronomy. Shema Yisrael, hear Israel. Adonai Echad, Adonai Eloheinu, the Lord is our God. Adonai Echad, the Lord is one, and you will love the Lord your God with all of your heart and your soul and your strength. And these commandments that I give you will be on your heart. These words, these commandments will be on your heart. And that's what we've covered so far. But listen to this next passage. After that, it says, you shall teach them diligently to your children. Now, some of you watching this have children. Some of you don't have children. Some of you have people who are maybe not physical or biological children, but they're children in your life and that you mentor them. This speaks to everybody, whether they have children or not, because we teach our children, like I said before, hopefully, purposefully, we teach them the good things in our life. This is something that we should be valuing. The words of God are the most important thing that we can ever try to teach in that way. And I wrap it up with a relationship with God and all of that. But this concept of who God is and what God has to say to us and his reach for us and our response to him, those are the most valuable things we can ever hold in our hearts and minds. Those are the most valuable things we can ever pass on to our children. And we should do that. We should conscientiously recognize a responsibility to our children to teach them these things. They should be what we think about when we sit down at home. They should be what we think and talk about when we're going along the way. And that's what Moses says in this section of after the Shema. He's telling his people, he's saying, teach this to your children. Speak of it when you're walking down the road. Speak of it in the ways of life. Think about it. Talk about it when you're sitting at home. The knowledge of God's outreach to humanity and God seeking us to respond in love and obedience is the most important and powerful thing we can give to anyone. And so I want us to focus today on not just how we ourselves need to see the value, but how we can share that with others by the way we live as well as the things we do. And that is even of greater importance than the top 10 albums of all time that our kids should be listening to and that I will soon be listening to as I continue to work, but not without my video thought for the day. We'll wrap up the Shema tomorrow. Bye-bye.